This video describes how to fill out a warped biosketch file for your funded co-investigators on your proposal. Before proceeding with this video, you should already have Google Drive access, an Overleaf account with a project created for your proposal, and a freshly downloaded biosketch template file taken from the warped GitHub repository. If you do not have one or more of these items, please refer to the instructions in the description below for further information. You will have a biosketch file for each person who is on your proposal and who will be receiving funding. More specifically, you will need to have a biosketch file for each person who will need to either have a current and pending section in the proposal and or will need to have a biosketch section in the proposal. Typically, these persons would be the PIs and the co-Is, but not usually the collaborators. Be sure to read the instructions of the solicitation to which you are submitting a proposal to verify who needs to be mentioned in these various sections of your proposal. I typically use a last name underscore first name type of file naming format. Let's go ahead and rename our template file. Right-click, rename. Now let's take a look inside. Along the bottom, you will see 3 tabs: background, publications, and grant support. The information that's provided in the background and publications tabs will be used to assemble the bio sketches that appear in the proposal. The information provided in grant support is used to assemble the current and pending grant section of the proposal. Let's go ahead and discuss and fill out the background tab, which should be the first tab that's shown when you open up the file, but if not, just click on the tab and that makes that sheet appear for editing. The first thing you want to do is fill out the full name of the person as you would like to see it appear in the proposal in the current and pending grant sections or the biosketch sections. And include titles such as doctor where appropriate, and use LaTeX markup or special characters that might appear in the name. Several cells, particularly those running along as column headings, have this little black triangle in the upper right-hand corner, which indicates that there is a note attached to that cell. You can read the note by just hovering your cursor over the top of the cell. So if you ever get stuck, you don't really know what the column heading is asking for, wave your cursor over the top and you should be able to get a pretty good idea of what is being asked for in that particular section of the file. In the table below, you will notice there are 3 main categories: education, appointments, and additional awards, positions, fellowships, etc. In the education section, you will want to list 1 line per institution, the start and end date separated by a dash, the institution name, the area of study, and the degree that you were awarded or are currently working on. There is a drop-down menu, but you can add another degree if you don't see the one listed here. In the appointments section, you again want to list the start and stop time. And by the way, if any of these items are still ongoing, the way to indicate through present is the start year, then a dash without anything at the end of the dash, which will indicate to the script that it's through the present time. And then you want to list what the appointment description is, just a very brief 1 or 2 words like research scientist or professor or postdoc. The institution name. Under the awards section, put in the start and finish timeline. If it was a one-time only award, just put 1 year there instead of a range of years. And again, if it was an award that is multi-year and it started a couple of years ago and it remains through the current year, then you just put a dash without the last year being indicated to indicate it's through present. And then you want a description of the award. The types of awards could be fellowships, actual awards, or even proposals that have been awarded. Now, in the current and pending funding section, you will also be mentioning proposals that have been awarded. And it's okay to be redundant because you might want to list here a proposal whose timeline has already passed, which wouldn't appear in the current and pending funding section, but you want to still be able to take credit for it, your awards list. There may be some awards that you want mentioned in some proposals, but maybe they wouldn't be appropriate to mention in others. This rightmost set of columns allows you to specify which awards you want to be put in which proposal. Along the very top here is a place to write the Overleaf project identification number for the particular proposal that you're working on. What you see right here is simply a placeholder. Right now, go to your Overleaf project that you've set up for this proposal. What you want is this number at the very end of the URL. So copy that number and type that number in to the Overleaf. Because a number is difficult to associate with the actual proposal when you are trying to refer to it, a good practice is to change the default note to something that's descriptive. Like as you are filling out more and more proposals over time, you will always know which column corresponded to which proposal that you were working on. In fact, usually I will put a date here as well. I'll be back and this table will be magically filled out. Okay, we're back. And one thing I did want to point out is that you can sort your entries after you've entered them. So you don't have to worry about inserting a newer date above an older date because you can always sort later. These little inverted triangles on each column is a way to do the sorting. You can sort from most recent to least recent, which would be from Z to A. Now let's move on to publications. List all the publications you have co-authored and that you would like to be listed on a proposal under the citation column. You should write the citation in exactly the way that you would want it to appear in the biosketch section in the proposal, including any LaTeX markup that might be needed. For example, I like to boldface my name in the author list. In the leftmost column, enter the date that the publication was made. This column is not used for anything other than just as a mechanism for you to be able to sort on publications to allow the most recent ones to appear at the top of the list if that's your preference. Just like before, you will notice that there's an overleaf section to the far right. Whenever you enter a overleaf ID number on the background tab, including any notes that you might have wanting to attach to that number along with the notes will immediately appear on the publications tab. Sometimes the note does not get updated. The best thing to do is simply to reload the page. And just like before, you will likely end up, over time at least, having more publications than you can fit in your biosketch section in the proposal. And the checkboxes allow you to indicate which proposals that you want to be selected for that particular proposal. I'm going to go away for a minute and come back with this sheet filled out. Let's say that for this proposal, I'm going to want the first two publications to be listed as well as those last two. To show you what it looks like when you have more than one proposal, let's add another one. I'm just going to make up a number that isn't even an overleaf number. And I'm going to attach a note to it. So you right click and then insert note. And for this proposal, I'm going to want first the middle two and the last one. You can see how useful the checkboxes are, allowing you to tailor which proposals to mention for a given proposal. One other thing I'd like to mention, you'll notice that the note didn't show up that I had attached to the second proposal. Let's renew the page to see if we can get that note to show up. So that did the trick. Now we can see the note. Now let's move on to the final tab, grant support. Remember that the information provided here will go into the current and pending funding section in the proposal. You want to type in the proposal title for every proposal that you are working on or that is already out for review that has been awarded. And as you find out later that some proposals didn't get funding, you can also indicate that status as well in the status section. So for each proposal that you list, you're going to want to indicate what the status is. And these are the available status describers. The script is smart enough to know if a proposal is indicated as being declined, that proposal will no longer be listed under the current and pending funding section. The script is also smart enough to know that for any funded proposals whose timeline is in the past, that proposal should not be listed as well. You want to also put the submitted date, and this column is not used for anything other than for sorting purposes. And this page can serve as a historical record of your activities on proposals. The next thing you want to do is fill out the source of the support. So typically the name of the program that the solicitation is from, and you want to fill out the program POC, who is typically the program officer at the federal agency to which you are applying, the PI's name, the science PI, and the admin PI. So sometimes you will have only a PI listed. Other times you may have some combination of these three. You want to list the award period, so start and end date separated by a dash, the award amount, if known. And here, always be sure to remember that this is really a LaTeX document that you're working on. So any $sign needs to be prefaced by a backslash, and the FTE amounts. So if the proposal is a multi-year, what I typically do is list the number of FTEs for me for each year separated by a comma. Here's what this page looks like when it's all filled out. along with some examples of various statuses or proposals. One thing I did want to point out was always make sure to make an entry for the proposal that you are currently working on. And of course, list the status as pending. Some solicitations require you to include the current proposal in the current and pending funding status, while other solicitations explicitly tell you to exclude the current proposal. So just to cover all your bases, go ahead and include the name of the current proposal in this list. And on the Worked tool, there is a place, it's like a checkbox that you can check to indicate whether or not you want the current proposal to be self-listed in the current and pending funding section. As I mentioned earlier, you will want one biosketch file to be created for each person who's listed on your proposal, particularly if they are receiving funding from your proposal. One useful way to get all these files filled out is to share that particular document with the individual and have the person fill out their biosketch themselves. One nice feature of Google Drive is that you can give access to one file to another person without having that person be able to see everyone else's biosketches if that information is something you want to hold in confidence. When you've filled out all the biosketches that are needed, you can then move on to the worksheet preparation. Please see the next video on setting up the work overlay communication.